We are live.
All right, everyone, welcome back after our July break. We'll call this meeting of the Committee of the Whole Operations to order. I'd like you all to rise as you're able for the reading of the invocation. As we come together today, we recognize the great responsibilities laid upon us. Our council will always strive to understand the needs of the people we serve and to use power wisely and well. Our purpose is to establish and maintain a city of prosperity and righteousness where freedom prevails and where justice rules. Let us also not forget those who served our community who are no longer with us so that we can continue to do the work that we must in their memory. We can sit. Madam Clerk, can you confirm the roll has been taken?
The roll has been taken.
Perfect, thank you. Members of the committee, are there any declarations of conflict of interest anyone would like to declare? Seeing none. At this time, I'll ask members of the committee what items they would like to separate for discussion purposes. I see Councillor Samwell chomping at the bit.
Thank you. I'd like to separate 6.1.1, 6.1.2, and 6.1.3, which is basically everything.
So everything. Anyone want to make this fun and separate the minutes too? Great. All right, and Councillor Samwell, if you can read the motion to place all. Oh, no, wrong page. Councillor Sless, can you please read the motion to approve all items for consideration and consent not separated?
It's moved by myself, seconded by my ward mate, Councillor Caputo, that all items not separated for discussion be approved.
And we'll call the vote. It's just the minutes, correct? I've been kicked out of eScribe, so I'm a yes. Okay, thank you.
Thank you. The minutes carried on a recorded vote of 10-0. All those voting in favor are Councillors Van Tilburg, Samwell, Carpenter, Hunt, McCurry, Martin, Caputo, Sless, Sullivan, and Secoli.
Perfect. We have no presentations or delegations registered this evening, but prior to our items for consideration, I'd like to remind those in the meeting today that the following rules of decorum as set forth in the city's procedural bylaw do apply. No person shall display any sign, banner, or place card in the meeting room other than the materials that, in the opinion of the chair, that is I, are legitimate audiovisual aids necessary in connection with any presentation that would be made to council. All persons present shall use polite and respectful language and shall refrain from the use of any language or the making of any gesture that is disrespectful or offensive. All persons addressing council shall speak only on the subject in debate. No person shall applaud participants in the debate or engage in conversations or behavior that may disrupt the proceedings of the meeting we are at tonight. All right, now we got Councillor Samwell. If you could please read the motion to place all the separated items for consideration on the floor.
Moved by myself and seconded by Councillor Van Tilburg that all items separated for discussion purposes be approved.
Yes. Okay. All right, we'll now take up the separated items in the order that they do appear on the agenda. And I have first up the Brantford Airport Board, item 6.1.1, Councillor Samwell.
Thank you. And through you, Chair, I just had a quick question. I would like to ask if staff can speak to why this is in front of us tonight. Has there been a need identified for more hangars? Just looking for some background on this request.
Okay. Through the chair to Councillor Samwell, Ray Petro, manager of real estate. To answer your question in short, yes, there is a need for additional T hangars at the airport. A lot of closures of regional airports in Southern Ontario has created that demand.
Thank you.
Councillor Martin.
Thank you. I have an amendment. If there's no one else in the queue, I'd like to bring that forward now.
I do see Councillor Carpenter in the queue. Did you want to wait?
I'll wait then, yeah.
Okay, I'll put you back in. Councillor Carpenter?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Just to staff, then, we were going to have a appraisal done on the airport's value. When will that be coming forward?
So through the chair to Councillor Carpenter, staff is in the midst of creating a work plan on that, and we should have something to you shortly.
So should we be moving forward with new hangars until such time as we have that report, or is it prudent, is it not prudent to wait?
Through the chair to Councillor Carpenter, I'm not sure I'm the one to answer that question.
Okay, so I'm just wondering if doing new hangars in advance of knowing what the best use value is. Okay, and then the other comment I would have is that when I first read this, it says report 2024, 391 title, June real estate and facilities approved report be received. Of course, I couldn't find it till I got to the minutes. It's in the minutes where you find that actual report. It's not in the body of this report that we're approving. So I did ask staff for a copy of it, and then I got to the minutes part and found it there, but thanks to staff for providing it, but we should keep things in our report so we can easily go to them. Thank you.
Counselor McCreary.
Madam Chair, thank you. Through you, staff. Do I understand correctly that our experience with these hangars is that they are money makers for us, even considering the debt service?
So through the chair to Councillor McCreary, yes, that is correct. They bring economic development to the airport as well through fuel sales and other expenses.
Right, okay, and we have in our near to intermediate future, I do believe we have consideration to create a municipal service corporation to take on the airport at some point in time. Is that correct, Rick?
That is correct.
And timing for that would be?
Staff should have a more fulsome business case presented to council shortly on timelines and timing of that.
Could you further refine the word shortly?
Within the next 30 to 60 days.
Thank you very much. I look forward to the amendment coming forward that hopefully will advance this money-making opportunity.
I came through you, Madam Chair, Brian Hutchings, CEO. I want to make sure the council, we're clear to the council that the next 30 to 60 days is reports on a timeline on all the matters such as the commercial hangar, the T hangars tonight, as well as the Municipal Service Corporation. Won't be a recommendation in 30 to 60 days on municipal service. I want to make sure that's clear to everybody. It'll be a report, a work plan. There's been a number of motions that come forth in the airport in the last 2 years, such as the appraisal, a number of things. So there has been no formal work plan to get all this stuff, all these things done, and something be coming forth in the next 30 to 60 days on that work plan to come to council. So you can understand the timelines and all these, about 6 or 7 initiatives.
Thank you. Counselor Sluss.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Just like some clarity, what we're approving tonight is for staff to seek out sources for funding. We're not approving anything. Is that correct? We're approving that they go out and look for funding, that if this moves forward, we would have funding to do it. Can somebody confirm that, please?
Yes, at this point, Councillor Schluss, that's what it is. But if, depending on the amendment that's brought on the floor, that's what it is at the moment, but amendment may change that, Councillor.
Thank you.
Thank you. And I do have one question before we get into the amendment that's coming forward. If we're exploring the creation of an MSC, the Municipal Service Corporation, if we waited to build the hangars, it would be that corporation that paid for it. But if we do it now, then it's the city paying for it? Is that the way this would happen?
Yes, you've summarized that correctly. However, if a municipal service corporation, much like when we merged Brantford Hydro with Energy Plus, there'll be assets that be transferred over to the new corporation, and then there'll be evaluation of those assets, and that corporation may have a liability owing to the city of Brantford and what have you. So that'll be all rectified at the date of transfer, but that's down the road.
Okay, thank you for explaining that. And Counselor Martin, I don't see anyone else in the queue, so if you want to bring your amendment.
Thank you. A couple of questions first, through you to staff. These 2 rows of T hangars, are these the same ones that were approved for construction last year?
Through the chair to Councillor Martin, yes, they're part of the rows of T hangars that were approved last year.
And they were approved because there was demand for them then, and and now they're a year late.
And that is correct.
Okay. And as for how T hangers are paid for, it's generally through aircraft reserves and debenture financing. It's not coming from the taxpayers of the city in any way, shape or form. So with that, I'd like to move an amendment, seconded by Councillor McCurry. The staff be directed to build 2 more rows of T hangers and bring to council on August 27th possible funding sources. And just briefly, the 30 T hangers were approved for construction last year. 14 we're hoping will be constructed soon. We're still waiting on a permit from the county. The other 2 rows were approved, but they were taken out of the plan because of financial constraints. That was never explained to the airport board. That was never explained to council. It was just made by staff on a whim without direction. And so this amendment will put these 2 rows of T hangers back into the plan for construction, hopefully this year. And we'll have a funding source come to council so that we can approve that and move this project forward. It's already a year behind. If we don't approve this amendment, it'll push it months and months further out and possibly not be constructed in time for this winter season, which is when people want their aircraft in out of the elements. So it's important that we move this forward quickly, and I hope this amendment will pass. Thank you.
Councillor McCurry to the amendment.
Madam Chair, thank you very much. Yes, I agreed to second this and I support it wholeheartedly. Hopefully committee members will overlook the redundancy in as much as this is previously approved, and approving it for a second time, I guess, punctuates the need and the desire of committee to see this move forward in an expedient and timely fashion.
Thank you, Councillor Carpenter.
Yes, I just want to correct something that I thought I heard. I keep hearing that the airport is fully funded from debentures and these T hangers are fully funded by money that's funded through the airport and that there's no taxpayers' money involved. But I beg to differ because quite frankly, all the staff time and staff resources are the taxpayers' money and they're paid to the taxpayer. They're not paid by the airport board or the funding to the airport. If they were, then the statement would be correct, but as I understand it, they're not. We don't have staff are not funded, their salaries are not funded, and sources of funding is coming from the taxpayer there. Just want to clarify that.
Thank you. And seeing no further speaker, Councillor Hunt, we'll go to you first. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and through you to staff. Can someone define possible funding sources? Like, do we know who's funding these T hangers, or is it something that we still have to explore?
So this would be, if I came through, Madam Chair, this would be looking at other revenues such as going to debentures, what they would be, what the rate would be. Is there any internal reserves we may have that may be available? As Councillor Martin has suggested, there's some airport reserves, there's other reserves we have to borrow from, or other mechanisms, but those are 2 or 3 of the primary ones we'd be looking at.
So following up on that, then the amendment says to report back to council this month on August 27th with the funding sources. Is that feasible?
Yes, our treasurer's back on Monday. She meets with 9 a.m. So it'll be one of the first things I'll put on her agenda to talk to her about, and have a memo to council sometime that the next week or so to let council know if it's feasible or not.
Okay, thank you.
Councillor Caputo.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So on the same subject line, would the rentals of the hangars cover the costs of debentures used to build these units without having any reserves or anything along those lines?
So through the chair to Councillor Caputo, there's a very good chance that that can happen. The numbers really can work. We just have to sit down with finance and see what those look like. And that's part of the staff research that goes into this. But short answer is yes, we can make the numbers work.
Okay, thank you.
And now second time speaker, Counselor Martin.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. Councilor Carpenter's right, staff time isn't paid for. However, it wasn't paid for the farmer's market or for golf either. And that's what led to the golf operations selling off the Airedale Golf Course in order to make it financially viable as required under Councilor Carpenter's resolution that.
Point of order,
golf and-
point of order. That's not on the topic, and it's not on the topic is the airport, and he's bringing up golf course.
It's related to the staff time that you raised.
Keep in regards to the point of order, keep discussion to staff time.
Yeah, staff time for golf operations was not paid for either, which led to the sale of Airedale.
Keep it to the airport. There we go. Oh. Seeing no further comments, we'll call the vote.
Thank you. And the amendment carried on a recorded vote of 8-2. All those councillors voting in favor are councillors Van Tilburg, Samwell, McCurry, Martin, Celeste, Caputo, Sullivan, and Secoli. Those opposed, Councillor Carpenter and Councillor Hunt.
All right, and to the motion as amended. Seeing no one in the queue to speak, we'll call the vote on that as well.
Just missing Councillor Slass. Is that a thumbs up? Thank you. And item 6.1.1 carried on a recorded vote of 8-2. All those councillors voting in favor are Councillor Secoli, Sullivan, Caputo, Slass, Martin, McCurry, Samwell, and Councillor Van Tilburg. Those opposed, Councillor Carpenter and Councillor Hunt.
Perfect. Moving on, Councillor Samwell, you've asked for item 6.1.2 to be separated. You have the floor.
Thank you. And through you, Chair, to staff, I just had a couple of questions. So I guess it would probably be Indy, but I wanted to know what the value add for this additional cost is, and are we taking into consideration any of the recommendations from the Heritage Committee? And I'll let you answer that, and I have a second question.
To the chair, Councillor Samwell, I'll talk a little bit about value add in the sense that the bridge is a key connection between the community, Southwest Brent, and the downtown. It fits within a lot of the bridge work that we're doing right now on Lorne Bridge. There's a structural rehabilitation and a structural testing that's happening right now. THMB Bridge, we had a successful art program there. And then also now with this bridge, which we're trying to increase the height because of the flood and the ice hitting it, which closed it. This would keep the bridge open for the community. I'll have Jen speak to some of the value in regards to the actual structure itself.
Thank you. Through the chair to you, Councillor Samwell. So sorry, I'm a little shorter. There we go. I'll get up. So some of the value for the bridge will be removing the bridge, the dated worn steel that you could, that it does have some wear on it, some holes. We'll be removing that. We will be increasing the height of the bridge, which will give us that resilience for the storm, any ice jams coming down the river as well. We will be getting a new bridge, a new steel structure that is the same style, same type of truss. Same patina as well. We will be having the end features as well. The concrete ramps coming up to the bridge. We will be clearing around the edges, both easterly and westerly. We will be having, from our heritage report, we will be having a public art piece that will incorporate a portion of the existing truss, the rail ties and the rail rivets as well. That'll be in that. There'll be an artist call for there. And then we will also be removing the Ford View Lookout as well in conjunction with this project.
Okay, so just to clarify though, the question was, are we accommodating any of the Heritage Committee recommendations in this?
Yes, so with the new bridge, we will be incorporating some of those recommendations within those limitations. There were some recommendations for increased height of the bridge that it is not cost effective in which to bring that in. But we will be looking at the lighting request that came forward from the Heritage Committee as well.
Okay, and my final question then is, I also wanted to know, are there any plans to animate this space and look at doing some programming and things like that in that area to really kind of bring it to life after we have the infrastructure?
Through the chair, yes, Councillor Samuel, we're undertaking that review right now of that entire area. So we do plan to come back to council with a plan of what possible in that area in terms of art and events and et cetera.
Okay, so we're going to receive a report back in regards to animating that space then?
That's right.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you. I have up next, Councillor Sless.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Through you two, I'm not sure Indy or Jen, but when I look at the finance, the subtotal for the project is 5.787,175 with a contingency of 10% of that, for a total of $6,365,892, and then 13% GST of $1,782,449, which far exceeds the 13%. The HST should be less than half of that. What am I missing?
Through the chair to you, Councillor Sless, I do apologize, it's been a long day. I'd have to get a calculator out to confirm. But the total net HST that should be calculated is that total value, and it's the 2% of tax that we do, the non-recoverable tax that we have.
Okay, so that's like 900 and some thousand? The numbers don't seem to make sense.
So the total net HST line that's in the table in the report is 116,879 cents. So that's the total net HST. That's from line 1, 2, and 3, which includes the latest cost estimate, the heritage component, a 10% contingency, and then that total net HST, which brings the total estimated construction budget to $6,757,772.21.
Okay, those aren't the numbers on the financial chart that I'm looking at that we received.
I can pull up the report. This report in front of me is the one that was in eScribe, so I can pull it up and send that one to you.
Well, I'm in the one on eScribe as well.
Mm-hmm.
And those numbers don't jive with the numbers I'm looking at. There's the general works, the general works, the bridge removal, the new bridge works, and the bridge electrical. That totals $5,787,175. A 10% contingency would be $578,717.50 for a total project of $6,365,892.50. And then HST at 13%, and we've got almost 1.8 million.
Councillor Sless, on page 5.
Yes.
I think you're missing the $250,000 for our art piece.
Yeah, so the table in the report, it's on page 5 of the report, which has 7 lines, 3 columns. Mm-hmm. Yep.
So the total project then is not 6.35 or 6.365892 million.
Through the chair to you, no, Councillor Sless, it is 6.757 million, roughly.
So can I just maybe clarify, Jen, what Councillor Sless is looking at is in the back appendices under WSP's numbers, which are missing some of our numbers. That's the problem. They've got their numbers from the engineering, but the full numbers, Councillor Sless, are on page 5 of the reports. Okay, that's the interpretation.
Yes, that is correct. That table within the WSP, it has total HST, which we don't we don't calculate because we do recover a good portion of that.
Appreciate the clarification. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Brian.
Thank you. I have Counselor Sullivan up next.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Through you to staff. I know Heritage showed some concerns with changing the height of the bridge, obviously, lowering the scaffolding. My question is, if we're gonna spend this kind of money and the bridge is not gonna look like it currently does now, did we look into building a modern bridge that's gonna fit what we're trying to do in the downtown? And then build a monument with the materials from that, if that's what we want to do later?
Through the chair to you, Counselor Sullivan. So through the EA process, when they went through all of the preliminary designs, this was the design concept that was the preferred alternative from that EA.
Preferred by who? Like by staff or by people you? Okay.
Yep, so
All right.
that report went through council and it did go through excessive public consultation.
All right, thank you.
You're welcome.
Great. Counselor McCreary.
Madam Chair, thank you. And through you to staff. I wonder if you could expound a little bit upon your vision for the commemorative piece.
Through the chair to you, Counselor McCreary, my apologies, new technology. So for the heritage piece, the public art, it will be defined the amounts of steel truss, railway ties, and the rivets. Thank you very much. It's been a long day. But we will identify the exact quantity and it will go out as a public art call. And then each artist can use those products and come back with a design proposal, which we then vet through a committee, and then it goes out. They get the successful bidder, and then it goes into production from there. So it could be anywhere from a full truss being used or pieces of the truss being used, as well as all of those rivets.
The $250,000 price that's quoted here, is that a fee which would be paid to the artist?
Through the chair to you, Counselor, that is correct. It would be a fee that does go to the artist, and it is utilized for transportation of the steel to a secure facility, as well as all the manufacturing. It will require steel work as well as welding, things along those lines, and then as well as transportation back and placing into the selected spot on the eastern entrance of the bridge.
And the intention of this is to produce a work of art which is evocative of the structure which we have condemned to death and replacing it with an ersatz version of itself.
Through the chair to you, Counselor McCreary, it would be commemorative of the heritage of that structure, as well as having the typical heritage plaque as well.
And can we ensure that we will do better than the rusting hulk that we have on the opposite side of the river, which at the time, I believe, was spoken of in similar terms?
We will.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Counselor Carpenter.
Thank you, Madam Chair. You're doing a fine job tonight. Just a staff, 1.76 million was from the Canada Community Building Fund. I take it that's from the federal fund?
Through the chair to you, Counselor Carpenter. Yes, that is the new name for the old gas tax.
So, are we applying for other grants through this federal fund for other projects in the city?
Through the chair to you, Counselor Carpenter, the CCBF funding, yes, that is utilized across many projects throughout the
Could
city.
we be made aware when we receive those funds and when we're successful, just to thank staff and make community aware that we're getting funding from the federal government?
This funding we do get every year, and it's based on the municipality, so the funding does keep getting
So it's
replenished.
an annualized fund.
Correct.
Okay, that's great. And the total for that annualized fund, do you have that offhand?
No, I
If
don't,
not,
but
you
we
can
can get back to you.
You can send it to us, that's okay. The $250,000 for the design construction of a commemorative piece. Where does that come from? Does that come from council direction that we wanted to spend $250,000 on our art piece?
So that requirement was through the EA where it identified the heritage components.
Came from the EA. Okay, thank you.
Yes.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you. And seeing no other speakers, I'm going to ask a few questions of my own. And I think Councillor McCreary teed up my line of questioning beautifully. I have some questions regarding the heritage value of the bridge. So it states here that we have a heritage conservation plan to mitigate negative impact on the heritage value. What is the heritage value of the bridge?
Through you to to you, Chair, the heritage value of the bridge is the purpose and the use of the bridge from its original state and keeping that heritage and identifying it, detailing it for future use.
I guess my question is, the bridge has enough heritage value that we want to spend money to make art out of it, but not so heritage that we want to restore it?
Through the EA where they reviewed it and as well as in all of the OSAM investigations, the bridge rehabilitation, it's beyond its service life. Plus as well through that EA, it identified the requirements of the flood levels of the Grand River with climate change, and that bridge does need to be raised and replaced.
Okay. Next question, I'm not sure if it's for you or Indy, but how much of the bridge are we going to be retaining from its structure for the sculpture? Certainly not all of it.
That is correct to you, Chair. So we are identifying a portion of the entire truss, so the entire rectangle portion, and it's going to be about 10 to 15 meters in depth, is what would be offered up to the artist in the artist call.
Okay. I'm having a hard time with this one, to be honest, but I'm gonna just reflect on it till council, and I thank you for answering all of our questions. Thank you.
Welcome.
Seeing no one else in the queue to speak to this, we'll call the vote.
Item 6.1.2 carried on a recorded vote of 9-1. All those voting in favor are Councillors Secoli, Sullivan, Caputo, Slash, Martin, McCreary, Hunt, Samuel Van Tilburg. Those opposed, Councillor Carpenter.
And like deja vu, we have Councillor Samwa, who asked for the next item to be separated.
Thank you. And through you to staff, I just have actually just a comment really about this. So I just wanted to thank staff for the report and the work that's gone into it. I'll be supporting this tonight because I love the idea of more community events and that we'll be hosting this in Ward 5. But I do want to just speak to the fact that I hope as we progress through this process for these events, that we can try and dream a bit bigger than what's in this report and really create something real special. Thank you.
Thank you. And Councillor Caputo.
Thank you, Madam Chair. When this proposal was brought forth, it was really to instill something in the community that I think that we've been lacking for a number of years. And that is bringing the community together a couple of weeks a year in seasonal changes and trying to create some kind of culture that I see happening in other cities with huge successes. You got the Ottawa Winterlude, the Quebec Winter Carnival, Bonhomme. Even Sault Ste. Marie can run a Bon Sud festival for a week long since 1964. From a summer perspective, you got Hamilton's Festival of Friends. You see all the festivals that happen in the city of London. And it was something that I wanted to be able to step back and think, can we do something here that's going to bring community together and do something other than have discussions about roads and repairs and everything else? I think we have a huge opportunity with corporate sponsorship and all this. I mean, our industries that are in the city are huge or monstrous. We've got more coming. It gives them an opportunity to invest in their employees, where they live, where they work, and where they play. And if we can capitalize on that opportunity to have them bring monies to the table, it's absolutely huge. From a private business perspective, they should be capitalizing on opportunities, having a winter festival, restaurants, different places throughout the city should be using these to try to generate revenues amongst themselves to get people in and about. The neighborhood associations in all wards should be capitalizing on this and having their own small events planned for their own weeks. Having streets in the downtown core shut down, creating an environment where people know they can get in and out. I mean, we live in a society now where we can't get kids off their phones. We can't get them off social media. Half the time we have to communicate through TikTok and or Instagram or anything else along those lines. Let's get everybody out and about. And I hope that we have an opportunity, and I'm certainly going to include myself in the planning with this, Laurie Dawn, as we move forward. But let's really get behind all this, because I think it's an opportunity for us to be able to do something we haven't done in a lot of years. Thanks.
Thank you. And Councillor Sless, I have you up next.
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair. Yeah, a great report, and I'd certainly like to commend my ward mate, Councillor Caputo. I know it's an initiative that's very near and dear to him, and he's driven this through, and I appreciate it, because I think it's something that's very good and very community building for our community. The one question I had, and it's a minor question, but it rather posed, I didn't understand. We in the report, it talks about the consultation that took place and the various parties that we spoke to. And one was the Athletic Association of Brant, Haldeman, and Norfolk. I've been involved in the athletic community for a long time in the city, and I've never heard of this. Could someone tell me what it is and what they do?
Through the chair, Laurie Dawn Caven, Manager of Community Events. This is an athletic association that brings together all of our high schools in the community, and they compete inter-county through various sport. So we did reach out to the association just to sort of talk to them very briefly about an idea that we would like to put forward, and the feedback that we got was enthusiastic, a great deal of enthusiasm. So I hope that answered your question.
Yeah, I believe you were talking in the report about a hockey tournament with the various high schools competing against one another. Might be one of the aspects that we do. Okay, it's more of a school board thing then, is it, under their umbrella? Is that?
Through the chair to Councillor Sless, yes, that's correct.
Great. Thanks a lot for the explanation. Thanks, Madam Chair.
Thank you. Councillor Carpenter.
I won't repeat all the good things that have been said, because I agree with them all. The one thing I'd like to see us do here, though, is engage the community in costs. We've heard over the last summer, specifically in the spring, about sometimes our costs, what we charge for events. I know with just running the Rotary, our cost was significant to city services and fees. And is there, I hope that could look at our costs to say, is there a way we can pare these costs down for some of these smaller events? I mean, the unbirthday party being a good example. We had lots of concerns about the cost of small groups putting on events in our community. We should be welcoming these events any way we can. So I'd like us to look at our costs going forward and see if there's a way if we can pare them down to make these smaller events more feasible. Thank you.
Thank you. And seeing no other speakers, I do have a question myself. So we're looking at currently hosting this in the downtown core, and then I'm assuming down Market Street towards the Civic Center. And I know Councillor Samuel wants to keep this downtown in her ward, but just a note for while we're planning this, whenever there's interruption out of West Brant, one of two ways West Brant individuals try to exit, it causes quite a bit of chaos. And if we're going to be looking at doing that for, an entire weekend, it could cause quite a bit of chaos for us. Has there been any consideration to maybe closing down Market Street and just keeping it down that way, as opposed to closing down the main? Through the chair to you, Councillor Sicoli, that is certainly something that we can
definitely look at. Generally, it's either Colborne or Dalhousie that we shut down, but we can explore that for sure.
Thank you so much. So I'll just leave that with you. Just know that even a filming downtown really messes things up in West Grant for the entire day. So I gotta look out for my ward oneers. And seeing no one else in line to speak. Oh, Councillor McCurry squeaking in. Okay.
Madam Chair, thank you. It's all too often that you place a thought in my head. Let me say this, that I would encourage us to think big, to think of what word would come after Brantford. What word comes after Calgary? Stampede. Thank you.
Always inspiring words from Councillor McCurry. And now seeing nobody else to speak, we'll call the vote.
Item 6.1.3 carried on a recorded vote of 10-0. All those voting in favor are Councilors Secoli, Sullivan, Caputo, Slash, Martin, McCrary, Carpenter, Hunt, Samuel, and Van Tilburg.
Brilliant. And we do have two resolutions on the agenda this evening. Councillor Martin, we have yours up first. If you would move that and state your seconder, please.
Thank you. I move seconded by Councillor Samwell. Whereas Bill 88, Protecting Ontarians by Enhancing Gas Station Safety to Prevent Gas and Dash Act 2023 is currently being reviewed by the Legislative Assembly of Ontario. This bill will amend the Occupational Health and Safety Act by preventing gas theft. And whereas the amendments will require all gas stations to utilize prepaid services when selling fuel. And whereas the legislation is focused on the Greater Toronto Area, and if a municipality wishes to be included, they need to pass a resolution requesting application of the act applies to their jurisdiction. And whereas the Brantford Police Service, like many services, deals with a large number of gas drive-offs that are a completely preventable offense. And whereas in 2023 alone, Brantford Police Service handled 206 gas drive-offs. Whereas at their June 13th, 2024 board meeting, the Brantford Police Services Board passed a resolution requesting that the City of Brantford Council pass the resolution requesting that the amendments under Bill 88 be applicable within the City of Brantford. Now therefore be it resolved that A, the Council of the Corporation of City of Brantford supports the Police Services Board resolution, and B, that Brantford City Council supports Bill 88, Protecting Ontarians by Enhancing Gas Station Safety to Prevent Gas and Dash Act 2023 as it relates to assisting the Brantford Police Services alleviate gas thefts. And speaking to this briefly, when we discussed it at the Police Services Board, it was hinted that a lot of gas stations would actually like to see this implemented. The only reason that they don't do a full pay in advance now is they need to be competitive with other stations. If it becomes mandatory across the city, then there's no reason not to do it. They'd have to do it, but they would appreciate it because now it's not a competitive issue. It's something that's common right across the city. It'll greatly reduce gas theft. And I think it's a good thing for our community. It'll take some of the pressure off the police so they can deal with other issues. We know that there's a lot of issues for the police to deal with, unfortunately, and this will help with that. So I hope council can support this because it's good for the gas stations, it's good for the police, it's good for the citizens. It's a win-win-win all the way around. Thank you.
Up next, we have Councillor McCurry.
Madam Chair, thank you very much. Well, I can tell you that Costco has to be prepaid. When Costco opens, it will be prepaid because it is an Ancaster. But I'm wondering, the information is anecdotal that gas stations would like to see this. Is there any plan to actually engage the owners and operators of gas stations to ensure that we're on the right track with this?
I'm not sure if there's a staff person. Is that a question of staff or just a hypothetical thought?
Question for the ages, rhetorical perhaps. But
Perfect. If a tree falls in the woods, I like
perhaps
it.
perhaps the mover and seconder could speak to answer that in their comments to follow.
Thank you. Up next, we have Councillor Samwell.
Thank you, and through you, Chair. So as far as answering that comment, I'd be happy to take that back to Police Services Board and ask that question there, where it's just where I can get a better answer for you. But I did want to speak to that I'm pleased to be supporting this tonight. I feel like this is very important. There's just too many risks involved when people are pumping gas and then trying to go without paying. It just puts too much risk involved. And also the losses are very preventable. So I'm pleased to see this come forward tonight and to be part of that. And I hope that we'll all support it unanimously tonight. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Caputo.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I probably can add a couple of cents to Councillor McCreary's question. Being in retail, kind of have a little bit of expertise in this, I hope. Wanting to prepay really eliminates the opportunity for people buying something other than gas when they're at a gas station. If we get into a prepay situation, it puts nobody inside the buildings, which means that they're not going to sell anything else that's in there. Costco, their gas stations are away from their building, therefore they've already had you already there spending $1,000 for 7 items. And then you walk out of there and then you purchase your gas. My recent, couple of weeks ago, I traveled down to South Carolina, and every time I put in gas, there was a memo on every one of the pumps that says that it's illegal to drive away after without paying. So what's happening in our environment today, in our society, every retailer is taking several measures to try to ensure that shoplifting isn't a concern. You're seeing it at the beer store, you're seeing it at the liquor store, you're seeing it everywhere. So I want to support this completely because I think it's an opportunity. And I think personally, I think we need to amend some of our laws in our country. I know this is a little off base, but we need to probably come down and not have a catch and release, but definitely have something when a premeditated, simple act is being done, that there should be a penalty attached to it to make people think twice about it. So thank you very much, Councillor, for bringing this forward to us tonight.
Councillor Hunt.
Thank you. And through you, there are certain things that are very difficult to do if you are in a wheelchair. Paying for gas at a gas pump, trying to, first of all, deploy a ramp, get out, try to pay for, try to get between your vehicle and the actual gas pump, and then insert it, which is usually above your head height. And try to do that all in advance is something that is difficult. And then pump your own gas in a wheelchair is another whole ball game. So much as I do support the concept, I think, and probably above our pay grade, is the fact that Bill 88 being put through is not probably looking at the design of public spaces standard, which addresses the fact that self-serve kiosks need to be accessible. So while I'm supportive of the concept because it saves on police time, I do just want to put out there that there are a whole other set of circumstances that some people need to realize from the standpoint of accessibility. So it's not everybody that can just pay for their gas in advance. Some of us do need to, first of all, if you can find a self-serve full service station, which is very rare, then that's your alternative. But trying to get out of your vehicle, pay for your gas in advance, pump your gas, then get back in your vehicle while in a wheelchair is virtually impossible. So I've been able to pump my gas and go into the store and pay, but I would not be able to do that under this legislation.
Councillor Van Tilburg.
I won't be supporting this, and I understand that they're doing this through the occupational health and safety. I know a number of my union brothers and such would support such an endeavor, but I personally don't. When one looks at the situation of many are self-serve, if it's a pump and go, the person's at the pump and they have taken off. There generally is no engagement with an individual with regards to health and safety. If they're sitting in a kiosk inside the store often, and what Councillor Caputo said is actually quite true. I mean, even though thousands of people go to each gas station daily, 24 hours, the gas doesn't make them the money. It's this inside sales in the stores. It's why they have the bank machines and all the things they're flashing at you. It's why they built them. Originally, there were just gas stations and not the stores. And so what you will create, and that's why I do think there needs to be more engagement with the franchise owners of those stations, is that you want to get the sales inside the store. And if people are put upon to do their debiting outside of the pumps, have you not go into the store, because that will become the routine, they'll have a revenue drop. So even though when one might say it might eliminate the competition, they may have a revenue drop. And so that hasn't been brought to the discussion. I am interested in hearing what happens when that question gets asked through the Police Services Board. I think that will, they could say, yeah, let's go ahead and do it, but I certainly don't want to get involved in other people's business. Which leads us to our business, and between one of convenience and what we do as a country. I have seen in the States where they have implemented this, and you ended up with people coming and doing armed robberies within the store. You're right, they're not doing a pump and run, they're coming right into the store, and then they're taking everything and anything else that goes with the store. But from my perspective, if you say you don't know how much gas you're gonna need and you put in 100 and find out you're only using 75, I know a number of people that were shocked to find out that the money doesn't immediately go back into their account. Even though it's taken and held, it's not back into your account. And that could take as long as 24 hours and sometimes 3 days. And so a number of people have been rather surprised, thinking that, oh, I pumped it and I didn't use 25 bucks and it should be there for me, and wondering where it is. And now all of a sudden they're caught out. Where had they known ahead of time that they go and they pay the 75 and they got their 25 back, it's all good to go right then and there. So that's the biggest difference with that. So I kind of like things the way they are. When I look at the volume, I know there's a lot of variety store owners that and other stores that are having a significant amount of crime that's probably easily $100 happening within their stores on a fairly frequent basis. And we don't see anything coming along the lines of occupational health and safety measures. And in fact, sometimes it's very difficult to get somebody to come out and investigate what's happening there. So this is just one entity in the retail business that we've decided we want to treat differently in this regard. I know I probably won't have the popular opinion, but I certainly have an opinion that is shared by possibly a minority of people.
Thank you. Councillor Carpenter.
I have similar concerns with Councillor McCurry on this. I know we've got the anecdotal information someone said about all the gas stations want it. I haven't heard that from service stations that I attend. But I'd like to know from them what they want before we pass this. So, well, I'll give it a pass today. I'm going to check with my service stations that I regularly go to and ask them if that's something that they've been consulted, and if it's something that they're in favor of. And if I find that they're not, then I won't support it when it comes to final council, because I think the point here is this council has been accused of not consulting the public on a regular basis, and I haven't had any consultation from gas station attendants, gas station owners on this process. We know where they are. We certainly could send them a note saying this is what we're intending on doing. We could survey them before August 27th, but I certainly would like to know what their opinion is on it. Thank you.
Seeing no other speakers, I'll take a moment and share my thoughts. I'm not going to be supporting this tonight because, I just don't think we should be meddling in the comings and goings and the business models of private industries. And the fact is, gas stations have the opportunity to be prepaid only at this time. And if they've chosen not to, there's a reason for that.
And I find that we frequently are in a position where we're trying to change our laws, not us, but as a society, as a whole, to pander to the bad apples. And we're punishing thousands of business owners and individuals over the actions of a few criminals. So I'm not going to support this. I don't think we should be meddling in private industry and telling them what to do, and especially not at a municipal level. So I'm unfortunately not going to be supporting this tonight. And I see Councillor Martin chomping on at the bit for a second time speaker.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. I'd just like to address some things. Everybody assumes that if we go to mandatory pay that you have to pay at the pumps. That's not the case. You can go into the kiosk and you can even pay with cash, as long as you give enough cash to cover what you're gonna pump. And then you go back in and get your change if you don't pump that much, which gives you two opportunities to look at the chocolate bars and everything else that's for sale in the kiosk. Soon to be beer, okay. And so the same would apply for wheelchair access. If you can go into the store to pay, you can go into the store prepay and go into the store and get your change. I've never had the necessity of trying to pump gas from a wheelchair. I imagine it is quite difficult. And I feel sorry for anybody who's in that situation. But Councillor Van Tilburg can come up with some legislation we can do that'll help protect convenience store owners. I'll gladly support that. And as far as punishing everybody for the actions of a few, well, that's the way our legal system is right now. We have a prime minister who believes in hug a thug and a catch and release justice system where the criminals are treated with respect and the victims are treated like dirt. So that's something that's already a part of our society that needs to change. Hopefully it'll change with a change of government in the next federal election. But until then, we have a system that punishes the victims and not the criminals. And unfortunately, if this is one way where we can stop some of the criminals, then I'm hoping that we can get support for this and move this forward. There are places where prepaying for gas is mandatory. It's been mentioned several places in the States. I never had a problem with that. I don't know why people do. It's back when I drove a gas vehicle, I used my credit card at the pump all the time. I never went into the kiosk, but some people like going in. My wife, for one, she'd rather pump the gas and then go in and pay for it. But that's up to people's personal preference. And they still have that choice if this passes. It just means that they have to do it before they pump instead of after. Thank you.
All right, seeing no one else to speak. Oh, Councillor Hunt for a second time.
Yeah, I just wanted to clarify, first of all, that would require the store to be accessible, which is usually a little more challenging than even the gas pump. But I just wanted to clarify, though, that this is a bill that is making its way through the Ontario legislature. So at this point, whether we support the resolution made by Brantford Police Services, that doesn't necessarily mean that this bill is going to be law in the province of Ontario as yet, as I understand it. Okay, thank you.
Seeing no further speakers, we'll call the vote.
Item 7.1 carried on a recorded vote of 6-4. Those voting in favor are Councillor Sullivan, Caputo, Celeste, Martin, McCreary, and Councillor Samwell. Those opposed, Councillor Van Tilburg, Hunt, Carpenter, and Councillor Secoli.
Thank you. Moving forward. Councillor Carpenter, we have the deferral of your resolution. Now, because it's a deferral, we don't need to move and second that again. So it's just automatically on the floor. But if you would like to be the first speaker because you would have moved it, then would you like to speak now or would you like to?
Oh, thank you, Madam Chair. I would. We brought this forward. I think Councilor McCreary was a seconder back in the day when we brought this forward. It's been a while since last September. It was to support our Brantford Red Sox, a team that we've had here 110 years. That is going through a difficult time to rebuild itself. And we weren't able to fund them or give them any breaks on our fees because they were for profit, which they were doing well. And they're now a not-for-profit, building a board of directors soon. And so we'd like to give them some support for the next 3 years as we would really originally intended. So that way we could actually see them build the board records and not lose the Red Sox to another city after 110 years. It's just, we provided a lot more support to us, our Bulldogs, our hockey team. I just wanted to see us provide some support in the way of waiving some of these fees for the next 3 years so they could build a team and build a brand again. Thank you.
Thank you. I have Counselor Caputo next.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'm fully supporting this. It all goes to what we talked about earlier when I talked about community culture, community involvement. This isn't a team that just started up a few years ago. This is a team that has an enriched history. And I think somewhere along the line, it's kind of lost a little bit and probably needs to have a huge marketing infusion in there to try to promote their team going forward. But as a city, we need to do whatever we can to help support and be a part of that going forward. So I'll be supporting this and go Sox. Although I'm a Detroit Tiger fan.
Now, Counselor Sullivan, I know you have the amendment, but we're going to go to Counselor McCreary first and then cycle back, okay?
I'll remind Councillor Caputo, that's two different leagues. You can be a fan of both. Thank you, Madam Chair, for the opportunity. I fully support this. This is one of our major sports teams, and this council embodied Councillor Carpenter, Councillor Samuel, and I to explore ways to help. And this is something Councillor Carpenter's had on his agenda predating the origin of that committee. We did look at Red Sox in terms of making some improvements to their field and some minor improvements to things we can do to help them operate. But this is existential as far as they're concerned. And they're now in a position to receive a bit of well-deserved largesse from the city of Brantford, and I'm happy to support that. You know, our major teams don't just provide entertainment for the masses here in the city of Brantford, many of whom in the city of Brantford support these teams because it's affordable for them. But it also provides an opportunity for our youth to look at their major sports teams and think, I can do that too. I can play Pee-wee and I can go on someday to play for the Brantford Red Sox and maybe excel beyond that. So this is I won't say it's not a lot of money because that got a friend of ours in trouble many years ago at the other table. But it is money well spent, I think, in terms of supporting this organization.
Thank you. Counselor Sullivan, I understand you have an amendment.
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair. Moved by myself, seconded by Councilor McCreary, that clause A be amended to reflect the years 24, 25, and 26. Obviously, in light of when they got their charitable status, we want to move it accordingly so they still get the 3 years benefit.
Just a housekeeping amendment. Is there any discussion to that amendment? Seeing none, we'll call the vote on the amendment, please.
And the amendment carried unanimously on a recorded vote of 10-0. All those voting in favor are Councillor Sullivan, Slash McCurry, Hunt, Van Tilburg, Samuel Carpenter, Martin Caputo, and Councillor Secoli.
Perfect. And I have no further speakers in the queue to this, but I will say that there are many good things that comes from the drive over the bridge to beautiful West Branch. And the Red Sox is just one of those reasons. So definitely worth the drive. And seeing no speakers, we'll call the vote as amended.
Item 7.2 carried unanimously on a recorded vote of 10-0. All those voting in favor are Councillors Secoli, Sullivan, Caputo, Slash, Martin, McCreary, Carpenter, Hunt, Samuel, and Van Tilburg.
Beautiful. 2 notice of motions tonight. Counselor Samuel, get you to read the title of yours.
Legislative amendments to improve municipal code of conduct and enforcement.
Thank you. And we have Counselor Carpenter. If you would read the notice again.
And notice the motion would be residential compassionate flood relief grant program, financial impact $110,000 be moved by myself and seconded by Councilor McCreary when it comes forward.
Very detailed. Thank you. Thank you. Please note that the notice of motion deadline for the next committee of the planning meeting is Thursday at 9 a.m. And this meeting is now adjourned.